The opinions and views expressed in the following presentation do not necessarily reflect those of GameCon Radio or its affiliates.
Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GameConRadio.com. We rock your world. Welcome to Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GameConRadio.com. We rock your game. We also rock your world every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. We start with DJ Smoochie, who has homeroom. She always plays great music. I love to chill out before my show. And then at 10 o'clock, Mo Banshee's Lair. You know, it's a big cave and a few throw pillows. I try to make it homey, and everybody seems to like us on Tuesday nights, so why change it, right? I want to draw your attention to GameCon Radio has a lot of different DJs, a lot of different shows. It plays music all day, all night, and then we have shows too, and one of my favorite is Dr. William Lester. On Saturday night, he does Shadow Land, and it's vintage radio, and it's all the greats like Vincent Price and the Shadow Knows, and all those great radio shows. And, you know, the dark stories that we used to scare the pants off us when we were little. Jurassic Park with Doc Stan. There's so many shows. DJ Barefoot plays music. DJ Deadeye, he also has a great show. So check out the schedule page on GameCon Radio, because I'm telling you, it's one of the best stations there is out there. And, as you're getting your, you know, your soda and getting everything else, you all guys all know how it works with us. I do my crazy butt news, and I want to welcome everybody that's in the chat room, and I also want to welcome everybody on different players, and however you're listening to us, thank you for listening to us, and send our links around. That's how we get bigger and more people get to listen, and the family gets bigger. I like big families. Labor Day is coming, and I want to ask everybody to please drink responsibly. So what does that mean? If you're going to drink, don't drive. You shouldn't be driving a car if you're drinking. And if you're the kind of person that becomes a total jerkoid when you drink, don't drink at all. You know, don't ruin everybody else's Labor Day because you're a moron. The roads are going to be really full with a lot of people who are going to try to take that last bit of summer and the picnics and getting away. So give yourself lots of time to travel. Be patient. If you need to chew bubble gum, you know, that's cool too. Put on your favorite music in the car and chill out, because it's not going to help having people get nasty and flipping the bird and cursing at each other. You know, so everybody, I want you to have a wonderful Labor Day, because next week I'm going to be on vacation. My prayer is everybody is safe. I want you all safe. I don't want anybody hurt. And you all know me by now. We are still in the throes of summer, September and October. It does get hot. Animals do not belong in cars when you are not in the car. If you're going to a picnic, if you're going to the county fair, if you're going to the grocery store, if you're going into 7-Eleven or someplace to buy coffee, do not leave your animals, children, or elderly in the car. In 15 minutes, a vehicle can turn into an oven and cause permanent brain damage to anything living in there. Your pets, your children, your elderly deserve so much better from you. And I am so disheartened because the more I scream about it, the more I seem to hear about it. If you see an animal in a car that's locked up, get a hold of the police, tell them to come and do something about it. Crazy good news. We've got some sad news. In the entertainment world, Phyllis Diller passed away at age 95. Phyllis Diller opened the door for stand-up women comedians. There was never anybody like Phyllis Diller before her. And she ended up getting a couple of gigs. One was with Groucho Marx, and he looked at her and says, you know what, you're funny, you know, and she had this laugh, this ha, 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 but it was her laugh. That's really how she laughed. One of her biggest admirers was Bob Hope, and he would take her on the tours, the Christmas tours for the guys overseas during Vietnam, and one of the shticks she would do is go out and look at all the Vietnam guys and say, "Oh my God, look at all these guys cheering," and Bob Hope would say, "Yeah, they haven't been home in a long time." And she'd laugh, you know, and go ha ha ha, because she always played herself down as a real dog. But she was funny, and she was a wonderful person. And she was she got into the industry towing 5 children behind her. So God bless her. She was a wonderful comedian, and I never saw her in person, so I don't know if she got too dirty. I don't particularly care for dirty, you know, really, really dirty stuff. You know, when some comedians get on the stage, they get really, you know, rank, and I don't care for that. You know, I think there are ways to tell jokes that are funny without, you know, making yourself look like a gutter snipe. But she was a wonderful person. She had a lot of friends in the industries. And when Bob Hope said, "How about coming and entertaining troops in Vietnam?" she did not blink an eye. She was there. The only thing she did say was, while she was there, he took her into one of the hospitals, and she started crying when she saw the kids all beat up and hurt. And Bob Hope took her outside and said, "Those kids don't want to see tears. They want to laugh. They want to get a bit of home." He says, "If you're going to do that, get on the plane and go home." And after that, she straightened up, and she was all laughing and flirting, and she was Phyllis Diller. So God bless her for a wonderful life and for many laughs that she gave people. Another, he's one of my favorite actors, a character actor, was William Wyndham. And most people will remember him from Murder, She Wrote. He played the doctor who was Angela Lansbury's kind of a little bit romantic interest, but also the town doctor that was always getting into trouble with Angela Lansbury. But I remember him from a TV series called My World and Welcome to It, where he was a cartoonist who kind of escaped the middle-class life through his cartoons and through his imagination. And it was wonderful. He won an Emmy for that show. Anything he was in, he was good. God bless him. He passed away the other day, and you know, he was a great guy. So God bless his family and comfort them as well. 35 years. It's been 35 years since Elvis Presley passed away. And it was very nice to see this year that both Priscilla and the daughter there ended up going and meeting all the fans that went to Graceland to remember him on the 35th anniversary. They spoke to everybody. They were very, you know, very nice, and they appreciated everybody's interest. I mean, 35 years later, and still Memphis traffic was stopped dead because of the king of rock and roll. So God bless his memory, and it's nice to see that the fans are still there for him. Now we get into some of the crazy but new stuff. China is coming up with a new kind of style. It's called a face kini. Evidently, the women in China are worried about insects being too tan, and jellyfish. I guess jellyfish are a big problem over there. So they wear something that looks like you would use it for bondage on their face. It's a mask. And, you know, they're saying that you can get it to match, you know, different swimwear and stuff, but they all look like axe murderers from the pictures. So the new thing is a face kini, and it's a mask that kind of looks like something your local axe murderer might wear, but it's the new thing in China, and I hope they don't bring it here, because then you really won't know who to be afraid of anymore. I like President Obama. He got in office at the worst possible time. I don't care if Jesus Christ had been elected president 4 years ago, he would have been in the same problem that, well, maybe not, because he could make, you know, gold out of water. So maybe he would have been better off, but nobody was going to do anything to make this economy turn around. We were already on a 40, 50-year slide down with the economy. But this new thing that the president's got going has got me a little shook up. Undocumented immigrants will be granted driver licenses. Now, normally I wouldn't care about this stuff, except when I go to renew my license, I got to bring my firstborn. I almost had to go dig my mother's remains up to show that, you know, yep, I'm here. This is me. This is my mother. I had to have 6 points of ID. I had to have ID with a picture on it. I had to go out and get a passport so I could get a license renewed. And now they're just going to say to undocumented immigrants, okay, you can have a driver's license. Now, this is coming after Lakewood, New Jersey started giving illegal immigrants IDs so they could use the libraries and cash their checks in the post office. Now, the problem I have with all this is your driver's license is not something that you deserve. It's a privilege, and roads are paid for by taxes. My libraries are paid for by taxes. Everything is paid for by my taxes, and illegal immigrants aren't paying taxes. So I'm a little disgusted with this whole give an illegal immigrant a driver's license, especially when I'm there and I'm having to prove who I am, that I'm here in the United States legally. I'm showing all these papers. I'm really annoyed. I think I know what the game is. I think they figure once they get some kind of documentation on them, they can start forcing them to, pay taxes or something. But that ain't going to work. So I'm really annoyed with that whole thing. I think it's crazy, and I think it's a waste of, time and everything else. I do have one more crazy but news. A lab tech at Georgia Health Services University may have engaged in too much monkey business. Officials jailed Coley Mitchell. He's 32 years old on August 13 after he was discovered intoxicated with his pants down in a campus locker with 2 lab monkeys that he had let out of their cages. He smelled of alcohol, and he became belligerent when the police tried to remove him from the room. And they made sure that the university, it's a research university, made sure they had veterinarians come and check the monkeys, and they said they seemed to be unharmed. I guess they have a problem with him having some kind of relationship with the monkeys that they're going to poison, test things on, they're going to radiate, they're going to put glass in their brains so they can see down the work. But he didn't hurt them, so it's okay what they do. But anyway, this guy is in big trouble, and he's being, held for observation because, let's face it, he probably shocked the daylights out of these poor monkeys. But that's the crazy but news, and I say this every week just when I think I'm not going to be able to pull up any crazy but news. There is a bumper crop of it. I'll tell you, it never ceases to amaze me what people do. Real Tears, the Beverly Washburn story. I read this book. Our guest is Beverly Washburn, and I have to tell you, this is an eye-opener. And Beverly, welcome to the lair. Beverly?
Hello?
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 Can you hear me?
I can, yeah, I don't know, it's my phone.
Okay, well, welcome to the lair, Beverly.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. I've been sitting here listening to what you've had to say, and it's wonderful so far.
Yeah, it's the thing with the monkey that got me. You know, bringing veterinarians to make sure he didn't hurt the monkeys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The dye that you're using, testing on them, all that garbage that you guys are doing over there, that's not hurting them, right? Your book. I read your book, and it's quite an eye opener to what I would say is the real Hollywood through a lifetime experience. You have literally a lifetime of experience with the entertainment industry.
Thank you. Well, I started quite young. I was 3 when I started modeling children's clothes, and so it's been a long career, and I feel very fortunate that I've been able to work with some of the really wonderful people in the industry.
How did you get into the industry?
Well, I started modeling children's clothes, and I was kind of following in my sister's footsteps. She used to go around. She was an acrobat, and she would do little benefit shows at various hospitals, mainly for the veterans, and I would kind of follow and, get up and sing when I was like 5 years old. And so I happened to meet Jock Mahoney. He was at one of these shows, and people will remember him. And he was the range rider and Yancey Derringer. And so we met, and of course I had an agent, and I would go on auditions, but I never got, any parts because I didn't have any, any credits behind me. And so they never would give me that opportunity. Well, anyway, I met Jock Mahoney, and a couple months later, I was on an audition at Columbia, and he happened to be walking through the lobby, and he remembered me because we had met at this benefit show for the veterans in Long Beach, California. And he asked my mother what I was doing there, and she said that I was auditioning for this movie called The Killer That Stalked New York with Evelyn Keyes. So he said, well, wait a minute, and he went in and he said, oh, this kid's done this and she's done that. And, of course, I hadn't done a thing, but they kind of took me on his say-so, so they had me read, and I got the part, so they took a chance on me. And then once I had that one credit under my belt, it was easier to go on from there because it's kind of a catch-22. They don't want to give you a part if you don't have any experience, and yet how do you get the experience unless they give you that opportunity? So anyway, so after I did that movie, because it was a speaking role, then I went on from there, and since I had done this film, it was a little easier to get, my next role. So I worked with Bing Crosby and Jane Wyman at Paramount in the Here Comes the Groom, and then I did, The Greatest Show on Earth, with Jimmy Stewart, and that was directed by Cecil B. DeMille. And then I did The Juggler with Kirk Douglas and Hans Christian Andersen with Danny Kaye, and just kind of segued into TV from there.
I'm going to say this. If Beverly sounds a little tired, just knowing her as long as I have, this lady is one of the nicest ladies I think I've ever met. She's always helping people, helping animals. She's got a neighbor who's very ill, and she's helping her out, pulling double duty, trying, to help this lady, and she's kind of tired tonight. And
I know. I'm sorry. I know I sound like I'm dragging. I just, I just feel that in life, like it's all about being there for each other, and,
yes, it is.
And helping people and doing the right thing. And I have this neighbor, she's been in the hospital for 7 months, and she just got out, and now she's on kidney dialysis. So 3 times a week. So I've been going back and forth taking her because she can't drive, and so that's why I sound a little bit tired. And so I apologize for that, because
okay.
I'm excited about being on your show, and you're so sweet to invite me to be on your show.
Oh, that's okay. I'm honored that you're on. Julia Roberts, Eric Robert, the actor Eric Robert, he said something on an interview a couple of weeks ago, and he says, I learned one thing. He says, be nice to everyone because it's going to come and bite you in the rear end. I've never heard anything bad about you. I've never heard anything bad about you. I don't recall ever reading, Beverly Washburn was, she was stoned on Hollywood and Vine. We never heard any dirt about you, which makes it...
Well, thank you.
Really
a little boring, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I liked the old days when I didn't know what people were doing behind their closed doors. And it's changed a lot now. I think fans think they're entitled to know everything about stars, and I personally, I don't want to know what they're doing behind their doors. I don't want to know what they're fighting about, and I sure don't want to know who Tom Cruise is banging or anything else, really, there's some things I just don't want to hear about. And like I said, I've never heard anything terrible about you. And you were always in the magazines, the teen magazines.
Well, thank you. Yeah, back in the 60s, it was a different era, different time, and like all the old TV shows are quite different than the ones that we have now. I did a lot of the old episodic, the Leave It to Beaver and Father Knows Best and all the sweet shows, where today, unless people are into nostalgia and they watch the old TV shows, it seems that all the programs that are on TV today are so different, and so I feel very blessed that I had that opportunity to grow up in that time when it was a simpler time and a sweeter time, and people just I don't know, it was different. I mean, I'm fascinated by all the technology and everything that we have, but I don't know, it's a different world. People get stressed out, and everybody's with their computers and their texting and all that, and back in my day, it would just seem kind of like a simpler time, and
do you remember when Disney tried to bring back Leave It to Beaver again, and they had... I liked that. I really liked that series, and evidently, a lot of people, it was boring to a lot of people, but I thought it was great. I thought that they updated it well. You had kids dealing with current problems, and then these kids that went through it, I liked it, but evidently, I hate to use the word reality, because reality TV is not real. It's all scripted. It's all crap. And unfortunately, this is what most of our young people are learning too. They're all learning from this stuff. But we're going to go to break in like 5 minutes. In your book, you have very nice write-ups from Tony Dow and Paul Peterson. Most of you kids from back then have managed to keep a very friendly bond, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Dow wrote the foreword for my book, and Paul, he also wrote something so sweet for my book, and I feel just so fortunate that throughout the years we've all remained friends, because, we all grew up together. And same with, Sharon Baird, who was one of the original Mouseketeers. She's one of my very, very best friends. And Lauren Chapin from Father Knows Best, and Cynthia Pepper, who, worked with Elvis and Kissin' Cousins. And, I just, it's just so nice to stay in touch with people, and this has been a very rough year for losing people.
It has.
So many people. It seems to me that this year has been probably one of the worst ones, as far as like one right after another, it seems, And that's why we just have to really enjoy every day, because we're not promised tomorrow. So it's important to just always be kind to each other and, live every day and be grateful, because we don't know if we'll be here tomorrow,
Yeah. Being one thing I've heard, like Paul Peterson talk about being a child of Hollywood and all, is one of the things is when you grow up, and we're seeing it now with the Culkin kid. Everybody wanted him for Home Alone. He was that cute little kid with the really big ears, but now he's a young man and parts are eluding him. The industry can be really unkind to kids in the business, right?
Yeah, it's true. A lot of kids that grow up, my peers that, I grew up with, a lot of them, had their own series and they were famous, and then the series ended and they couldn't get work. And so sadly, a lot of them did turn to drugs and alcohol and all that, because it's hard to deal with things and to cope with a lot of things. So I'm fortunate that I think I'm normal, that I've just tried to keep my head on straight. And I think it has a lot to do with the way you're brought up, And my parents were always very supportive and very loving, but they always drilled in me from the beginning that just because I'm, working as an actress doesn't make me any better than anybody else. I might be a little bit luckier, but I wasn't better. And they said any time that it would go to my head or I started, acting too big for my britches, that I wouldn't be allowed to work anymore. But I always loved working, and so I tried to, they instilled all that in me. So I kept on working, and I feel very grateful for having such a loving family.
Yeah, you can see when I met you a couple of weeks ago, you could see that you're like me. Family is everything. Family is without family, you are just so screwed. Friends come and go, and families can very often have rifts. But family is forever, and that's really important. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how you learn to balance acting and then just being a kid, and then the fame and everything else that comes with it. When we come back, I'm going to open the lines if anybody wants to call in. So I'm going to give you the number now, but don't call in until I tell you the lines are open, because they won't work. The number will be 732-707-7709. Again, that number, when I announce it after the commercials, will be 732-707-7709. And for our first break, we're going to be playing San Francisco by Scott McKenzie. Scott McKenzie passed away the other day, and I can't even begin to pronounce it. Guillain-Barré syndrome. It's an autoimmune disease which can hit people through any stage of life, usually after surgery or severe illness. And evidently, he was really struggling with it, and it hit fast and was only a year or so, but he finally succumbed to it. And this is his one-hit wonder, but we're going to play this for him tonight and remember San Francisco. And we'll be right back. This is GameCon Radio, and you're listening to The Lair with Mo Banshee.
Just a reminder, guys, all our talk show hosts here at GameCon Radio volunteer their time, but you can always show your appreciation. Click on the tip jar and give them a little love. I'm sure maybe your predictions will come out a little bit better. And that's how we roll here at GameCon Radio. We rock your game and your paranormal.
Yes?
Hi, I'm here for the New York Ghost Tour.
Sorry, we're closed. But you can come back next week.
Next week? Forget that. I'll just go check out another place.
Trust me, there's no place half as interesting as ours, dear.
That's so not true. What about the Shanley Hotel in Napanock?
Once you've been to one haunted hotel, you've been to 'em all.
Not like this place. The Shanley Hotel dates back to 1845, and since then it's been a hotspot for paranormal activity. Mysterious music, smells, whistling, doors opening, footsteps. Almost everything you can imagine has been experienced at that hotel.
It's open to the public?
Absolutely. Sal and Cindy, the owners of the hotel, welcome people for regular stays or investigations, and their rates are beyond reasonable. They even offer workshops and in-house psychics.
How did you learn about this place?
By visiting www.shanleyhotel.com. You can get history, investigation info, and much more.
Thanks, I think I will. Just don't tell any of our customers.
Your secret's safe with me. It's not like anyone can hear us.
Welcome back to Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GameConRadio.com. We're rocking your world tonight with Beverly Washburn. The song we played during the break was San Francisco, sung by Scott McKenzie, but it was written by John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas, and they were friends, and originally they wanted him to become part of the Mamas and the Papas, and they decided no, they would go two different directions and pursue their own careers. But he made his mark in the world by singing, if you're going to San Francisco, which kind of became a flag song for the time. We had troops in Vietnam, so a lot of the troops were thinking, when I come back to San Francisco, when I come home, I'm going to wear flowers in my hair. And then people also equated it with peace, and you make love, not war, and all that, although that never works, because usually war is the product of some kind of screw up like that. But there's been plenty of wars over women, so sex, money, it's all in the game. But he passed away, and God bless him. If nothing else, he moved an entire generation of young people back then with that song. It was just a real nice voice. You've written a book called Real Tears, Beverly. And it's the Beverly Washburn story. Let me ask you, why did you write the book?
Well, actually, it was a long time coming. My mother had decided that, she was going to write a book, and it was going to be about being a parent of a child actress, and as well as my older brother and sister were also in the business, and so she thought it would be kind of interesting to write from her perspective what it's like to have children in show business, going on auditions and things. So she started writing this book many, many years ago, and it was going to be called The Trials and Tribulations of a Hollywood Mother. And so she wrote it. Of course, she wasn't really a writer, but she put a lot into it, but it wasn't ready for, to be published, and it wasn't finished, but it was kind of, just jotted down on paper. And then, sadly, she got ill, and she ended up with Alzheimer's, but she had this manuscript put away in her desk. So my older sister Audrey and I, when we were cleaning out my mother's things after she passed away, we came across this manuscript. And we looked at it, and my sister said, we should finish this book because it would be a tribute to Mom. And so she said, but now that she's gone, she said it can't be from her perspective because, it wasn't finished. So she said, how about if I write it, and it'll be from my perspective as being a sister of, a child in the business. So she started writing it, and again, it wasn't really finished. It wasn't ready to be published, but she, wrote down a lot and had another manuscript, and this time it was going to be called Hollywood Child. Well, then, unfortunately, my sister got ill, and she passed away from breast cancer. So this big, manuscript just kind of sat around on the shelf for years doing nothing. And so my husband always encouraged me. He said, you need to finish that book, but, write it from your perspective since, my mother and my sister had passed away. And I said, I don't know how to write, and I don't know what to say, and who'd want to read it, and, all that kind of things. Well, my husband was very supportive, and he kept saying, I really think you should write it. So I thought about it, but I just kind of put it aside. And then my husband got ill, and he died from cancer. And so one day, I came across this manuscript, and it was just kind of partially written by my mother and partially written by my sister. And I thought, my husband had always encouraged me to write it, and I thought, I'm going to sit down and do that. And it'll be like, something that my mother and my sister would be proud of, as well as my husband. And so I don't know if you know who Kenny Miller is, but he was quite popular back in the 60s. He did all the old beach movies and all that. And he was a couple years older than I was, so I knew who he was, but we didn't run in the same circles. And but he was in all the old movie magazines. So one day, a few years back, I was at an autograph convention, and he was there, and he came up to my table and introduced me, and of course I knew who he was right away, and he asked me if I would sign a picture to somebody by the name of Don, who was a big Superman fan, because, I'm sure some of the people out there listening know that I was in Superman and the Mole Men. Mm-hmm. And so just then somebody came up to my table, so Kenny said, will you write it to Don? And he said, you've got somebody here now, so why don't you bring it over to my table when you're done? So a little while later, I went over to his table, and Kenny had all his pictures, and he had a book called, it was the Kenny Miller story, and it was called Hollywood Inside and Out. And I said, oh, my goodness, you have a book. That's wonderful. And he said, oh, yes, it's been great. I love to sell it at conventions, and it's on Amazon. And he said, you should write a book. And I said, well, I've been thinking about that, but I don't know really where to begin. So he said, well, why don't you get in touch with this man by the name of Donald Vaughn? And he said, he is a writer, and he would help you find a publisher and, put it together. And he said, you tell the story, and he does the hard part, the PDF files and all that. So he said, as a matter of fact, the guy that you autographed the picture for is Don Vaughn. So he put me in touch with him, and I called him, and he said, will you send me your manuscript? And so he said, let me take a look at it. So he read it, and he called me back, and he said, I think you have something here, but it needs a lot of work. And he said, it needs to be you writing it, not your sister or your mother. It needs to be from your perspective. And he said, but we need to find a publisher. And he said, if I can't find a publisher, then I'm going to have to back out, because it's too time-consuming and expensive, and trying to self-publish and all that. He said, if we can find a publisher, he said, I will help you with it. He said, you'll have to do the writing, but he said, I'll do the work of finding the publisher and putting it in order and, and all that. So I said, okay. And he says, give me a few weeks, and I'll see if I can shop around for a publisher. And I said, okay, that'll be great. And the following day, he called me, and he said, looks like you're going to be writing a book. He said, I found a publisher who jumped at it, and that was Ben Omar from Bear Manor Media. So he said, now we have to start writing. So every day for almost a year, I would sit at my computer and just start writing everything that I could think of as far as I could remember from growing up as a child. And so, and I would just email it to him, and then he would edit it and put it in the right form. And then we started gathering pictures, and then Tony Dow, who's a good friend of mine, said he would love to write the foreword, and it just kind of segued from there. And so that's how it came about. And now I got an email from Ben Omar, who said that the only negative thing was that people said it was too thin. They wanted a bigger book. And I was so touched by that, because he said that's a nice compliment, that people want more.
Right.
And I said, yeah, I guess that beats them saying it put them to sleep. So he said, would you consider, doing like a second edition with more stories? And as it turned out, I was able to come across a lot more photos over the years. And so this one is going to be called Real Tears Take Two. And so it's basically the same book, except there's a lot more stories and a lot more photos. And so it should be out in October. And if people go to my website, which is real easy, it's just beverlywashburn.com, it shows the new cover, what it's going to look like, which was designed by Rick Sapphire, who's my manager. And
yay, Rick! Shout out
yay,
to
Rick! And so now he's put together this little thing we've been working on. It's a little symposium, which, you were there, Mo. You came to my first one.
It was really nice.
Thank you. And I was so delighted to meet you, and you were so kind to come. And it was just a real fun thing. So now we're hoping to embark on a cross-country tour. And, Rick is in the process now of, trying to book some other little shows. And it's kind of fun because, as you know, we show clips, old rare movie clips and TV clips, and now he's come across a few more old radio clips that I did, and so that's what I've been working on now.
Yeah, my daughter went with me because it's quite a distance from where I live.
I know that was so nice of both of you to come.
But she says I would have sat there for another 3 hours.
Oh, bless her heart! How sweet.
Yeah, she really was just so interested in listening, and the little skit you did at the end was adorable too. With the
that was fun. Wasn't it?
Yeah. The book is called Real Tears. It's REEL, as in a movie reel. You're not using REAL, and
yeah, it's like a little play on words.
Yes, and would you explain why it's called Real Tears? That's your thing. That's your forte, right?
Well, I don't really know why, and I can't really explain it, but it seems like pretty much every movie I ever did or every TV show, I was always called upon to cry, and so I was kind of known as the little girl who could cry on cue. And in fact, there was an article that TV Guide did on me many years ago. It was a 2-page spread, and it said, Beverly Washburn earns her salt by crying on cue. And so most people kind of associate me with crying. Of course, in Old Yeller, I cried, and a lot of the movies that I did and TV shows. So I don't know what it is about that, but it seems like I was always crying. So. And people would say, well, are those real tears? Because there's a way in the movie business that if somebody can't cry, they do one of two things. They either blow this stuff in your eyes. It's like a menthol thing that makes your eyes water. Or if they want tears streaming down your face, they use this little eyedropper, and it's like a glycerin thing. It's kind of a thick, it looks like a kind of a syrupy thing that they put in the corners of your eyes so it comes down. But for me, I was fortunate. I never needed that because I always could cry. I don't know why. I guess I'm just emotional. And so people would always talk about my tears were real. And so then from there, it kind of segued into the fact that I did all these old films. And so that's how the book is called Real Tears.
Terry Soto is one of my favorite people in the world, and he's in the chat room and helping me out there. I can't type a lot in the chat room because I'm doing the interview and all. But he says you made Bill Murray cry. I don't know. Bill Murray, the actor Bill Murray, you made him cry or something?
I don't
know. Terry's there, and he's saying something about you're going to be back in Edison, New Jersey in October.
Well, yes, Rick Sapphire, my manager, is putting together this little, it's going to be, I guess, it's going to be what we did, that little show. He's calling it a 90-minute multimedia symposium. And but this time, rather than just people sitting there and seeing this, we're going to incorporate a luncheon as well. And so it's going to be at a hotel. I'm not sure. It'll be on my website once it's all in place, because I'm not sure exactly what hotel yet, but it should be in October, and I'm hoping people will come because it should be a fun afternoon and should be about 2 hours. We're thinking, we're going to have a sit-down lunch and then show old movie clips and TV clips, and there'll be a Q&A like we did last time, and then hopefully somebody will come up from the audience like they did last time and do a little scene with me from Old Yeller, and hopefully we'll have some fun. But it'll all be on my website, and as I said, it's real easy. It's just BeverlyWashburn.com, and then you can click on to the various things, the movie clips and the TV clips and all that, and it'll have all the information as far as the cost and where it is and the time and place and all that.
You're one of those actresses where people say Beverly Washburn, but then when they start going through movies, the kid that cried, the kid that, all of a sudden they go, oh my God, I know who you're talking about, it's, you hear stories where they're trying to get a kid to cry, so they go in and tell them, your mother called, your dog was just run over and killed.
Isn't that
and
awful?
I'm like, isn't that child abuse?
There are stories about that, how the directors would tell the child that their dog just got hit by a car or something in order to make them cry. And I would like to think that that's not a true story. I mean, that story's been circulating for years, but that just seems like that would be so cruel, and I mean, I never had that experience, and I worked quite a bit as a child, but then again, if I had to cry, it was easy for me to cry, but I'd like to think that never really happened, because I think that is child abuse. I think that's horrible to do that, so.
So how did you get it, how did you manage it?
To cry?
Yeah.
I guess, well, for one thing, I guess I've always been overly emotional. I don't know. But as an actor, you try to immerse yourself in the role. And obviously, whenever there's a scene and I'm supposed to be crying, there's obviously a reason that I would be crying. So I would try to just immerse myself into that role and pretend that I was that person and that whatever it was that was making me cry was really happening to me, and invariably it would just make me cry.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's
I don't know if it's a gift, because then everybody says, "Oh, you need a crier. We got the kid," and they're saying, "Well, did it ever stop you from getting a part where they said, no, she's too much of a crier"?
I don't know. That's a possibility. I don't know that it did, but sometimes, I wish that I didn't cry so easily because, I cry at things that make me happy too, or I cry at, things that are touching.
You wear your feelings on your sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that can be dangerous because then people can use that on you. And Terry is talking in the chat about Jimmy Stewart could cry on cue. You know who I always think of as a consummate child actor and being able to cry and break your heart was Jackie Cooper.
Yes.
I mean, he could break your heart crying, Oh, Dad, don't, oh my God, somebody put a bullet in my head. It's incredible the way the kids. Your book. Let me get back to the book before we go this way. I think what I liked about it was the way you write, the way you talk, and I'm just going to pick out one little snippet of it. And you say, I developed a huge crush on Tommy Kirk while making Old Yeller, and we went steady, and you put parentheses around it, during the filming. Tommy gave me a very romantic skull and crossbones ring. I mean, that's how I talk, You're putting in that, it was so romantic,
well, at the time I thought it was. I was 12. What did I know? But
Tommy Kirk, I mean, he could have given me a dead fish, and I would have been over the moon. Really, I think I like the way you talk about it. You're not. Everything is just, well, this is how it happened, and you can see that you really liked that little ring. Do you still have it?
I do. In fact, Tommy Kirk was here about, I guess it was it was last weekend. He came to visit me, and so there was a church here that he wanted to go to, and so he came and we had dinner. I made him dinner, and it was nice to see him. We're still friends after all these years, which is over 50 years. Mm-hmm. So he's a dear. He really is. He's a sweetheart, and he didn't remember giving me the ring. He said
they all develop Alzheimer's. I don't know what the deal is with them. Yeah.
I had to show it to him. Yeah, and then he laughed. But he's a sweet guy.
How did you? We're going to be going to break again. I told you this moves fast. How were you able to balance? When we think of kids, I think of my kiddies, and they're outside climbing trees, and they're getting filthy dirty. Well, we live by the beach, so anytime you got new shoes, you knew they were going to be in the water with the new shoes,
right.
And stuff, But for a child actor, you're talking about somebody who's trying to balance being a child, which in itself is not an easy job. Being a child is hard work, and then being a professional and being on cue, and you had the gift to remember your lines, like a photographic memory, and then suddenly everybody is placing laurels on your head, and now you're the breadwinner too. How did you do it all without a breakdown?
I honestly don't know, Mo. It's just something, I guess, because it was normal to me. And I went to public school in between shows, and my parents tried to keep me as normal as possible. And my best friend, Joni, who we're still best friends, she lives in St. Louis now, and we've been friends since we're 6 years old. We used to play together, and we'd play hopscotch and ring around the rosy and all those things that kids don't do today. But and I wasn't. Well, people that will read my book will know my story. I was the breadwinner because I didn't come from an affluent family, and so I did support my family, but I didn't know it at the time. And that's all in the book. So there were some tough times, and looking back, a lot of people said, oh, that's horrible that, you supported your family. But I never went without. It wasn't like my family was taking my money and buying, drugs and alcohol with it.
Right.
They loved me very, very much, and I loved them. But it's all in the story in my book, as you know, how that all happened. That
right.
I bought the house.
It was a different time back then.
Pardon me?
It was a different time back then. Families pulled together, and you looked at it as you're working and making it possible for the family to continue, and that's the thing. Back some years ago, Teddy, the company went on strike, and Teddy was trying to get a part-time job or something, and people wouldn't hire him because they, what are you kidding me? As soon as the strike's over, you're going to leave. And our daughter was a waitress, and she was the one putting the milk in the refrigerator for the boys, but that's how families should be. Now you get kids that are saying, well, I earned that money. It's my money,
Right,
right. I don't understand this disjointed thing. We're going to go to break, and in the background you can hear Beverly's
my dog.
Because
sorry, I have a little zoo here. I think I've got
it makes
Actually, I'm over my limit.
Yeah, you make me love you because you're a huge animal advocate and you love animals and that's another reason why I just, love you so much. We're going to come back and then I am definitely opening up the lines because then if somebody wants to call and ask questions, we've gotten a lot out of the way about the book. The second song we're going to do is actually Everybody Loves Saturday Night, which is sung by one Miss Beverly Washburn. And you tell people about this song?
You want me to tell them about this song?
Tell how it came about.
When we come back from the break or now?
Right now, because I'm okay. I know the boss, so it's okay.
Okay. Okay, well, for people listening, Celine Dion, I ain't, okay? It was back in the 60s. I was doing a series, the Loretta Young Show, and my agent was William Morris, and it was back in the times when all these people from series were recording. Shelley Fabre did Johnny Angel, and Paul Peterson did My Dad and everything, and so William Morris called me and said, we've got a recording contract for you. And I said, oh my gosh, that's wonderful, except for one problem. And they said, what? And I said, I don't sing. And they said, well, can you carry a tune? And I said, well, yeah, I can carry a tune, but I'm not really a singer. And they said, well, if you can carry a tune, then there's no problem. And all of a sudden, before I knew it, I was in the studios with a big full orchestra and backup singers and echo chambers and all that. And lo and behold, there I was making this record, and it actually made the charts. And it was, the old kind of bubblegum sound, I guess they called it, with the echo chambers and all that.
Yeah, they covered a lot of that because a lot of you kids got nervous, and the echo chamber helped.
But, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know. My phone was beeping.
Okay.
But, okay, so I hope you don't lose any of your audience.
No, okay.
Play this song.
Okay. We're going to go to break now, and the song is Everybody Loves Saturday Night, and it's sung by Beverly Washburn, and it'll be right after the commercials. And we'll be right back. This is Game Con Radio. You're listening to Mo Banshee's Lair, and we'll be right back.
You are listening to Game Con Radio.
This is Michelle Tomlinson, the Scream Queen, and I listen to GameCon Radio. Why? Because it rocks!
Saturday
Mo Fancy's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GameConRadio.com. We're rocking your world tonight with Beverly Washburn. She's written a book called Real Tears, the Beverly Washburn story, and it's a very candid, open, honest look at her life as a child actress and then going into a teenager and then being a young woman in Hollywood and dealing with everything that comes with it, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad. We're going to open up the lines for calling. So I'm going to give you the number. So the number is 732-707-7709. But give me a few minutes because the tech just walked away, I think. And give me a few minutes before you call in because I think the tech just had to leave the room for a minute. But getting back to this, being up, he's back. So if anybody wants to call in and talk to Beverly, ask her a question, it's 732-707-7709. Let me ask, the way they worked it for you guys, it's not so different now. People just don't realize that actors and actresses, they find ways of always being in the news, right? So that people see them, because the worst thing that can happen is you're out of the public eye for a long time. How were ways that they kept you guys all in the public eye, and all that? So kids always saw you, people always saw you.
How did they keep us in the public eye?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it, back then they had a lot of the old movie magazines. They had Modern Screen and Photo Play and Teen Beat and Teen Magazine and all those. And so the studios would set up, phony dates so it would look like we're on dates. And so I would get to go out with Bobby Rydell and Paul Peterson and Tony Dow and Eddie Hodges and the Beach Boys and Jan and Dean and all, and all that. And then it would be a set-up date, and then they would have photographers there. And then it would say something like, Bobby Rydell and Beverly Washburn were seen out at, Ciro's or whatever having dinner. Mm-hmm. And it was just a setup, but they did that all the time. So you were always out, in that way in all the movie magazines and stuff. So, so it was fun for me because I got to go out with all these really nice guys, although it wasn't a real date,
Yeah, and that I think it almost made it like the debutante ball type of thing, the Deb Star ball. Mm-hmm. The picture you have in there, you're with some
Bill Bixby.
Yeah, you went with
Bixby.
Bill Bixby. Was he a honey or what when he was
young?
young?
Oh, my gosh, Mo. He was probably one of the sweetest men I have ever known in my life. Just the dearest, dearest man. And Jack Benny was my sponsor for the Deb Stars. They don't do that anymore. They did it for several years in a row, and it was alive. It was on TV, and the host was different every year. When I was the host, I think it was George Goebel. And then they would pick, 10 actresses that, it wasn't a beauty contest or anything like that, but it would be 10 actresses that the makeup and hairstylists would choose and nominate that they think would go on to, make it in the business. And one of the Deb Stars, when I was doing it that year, was Raquel Welch. So it was Raquel Welch and Marianne Mobley, who became Miss America, and let's see who else. Barbara Parkins, who was on Peyton Place, and
and I have to say something. We hear Raquel Welch and all. You were just as beautiful as any of them. I mean, really. I mean, really. And it's just amazing. Now when we see Miley Ray Cyrus, it's because she got a tattoo on some private part of her body. I just don't think that it's the same. I think sometimes the kids are being really shortchanged.
I know. Well, it's a different time. You know?
It is. It sucks for them. I really do believe it sucks for a kid being an actress right now.
Yeah.
You're a huge animal lover, and I want to get to that, but I'm going through the book, and you are also a Trekkie. Trekkies go up to you because you were in a Star Trek episode, one of the really cool ones too. And your remark in the book was you weren't wearing red or something. You know, you always knew who was going to die, didn't you?
Well, it was in each episode, if you'd see somebody, you know, wearing a red uniform, you could kind of count, you know, you'd go, okay, they're not going to survive this episode. But I died of old age on that show. It was an episode called The Deadly Years, and I played Lieutenant Arlene Galway. And at the time, I had no idea that Star Trek would still be going strong. All these years later, it's been like, I think 47 years since I did that episode. And
one of the famous scenes is the blooper scene, right?
Oh, I know. I had no idea I was going to make the blooper reel, and it was fun, though. But yeah, Star Trek was a really fun show. And
you know, it was the Star Treks. When you go to conventions, I guess it's one of the more memorable ones because they go down to some planet, and then when they come back, they start to age rapidly. Mm-hmm, and of course, DeForest Kelley always seemed like he was already on the early side of Alzheimer's. But in the scene, you walk up to him and say, "I can't hear," and he's there smiling, saying, "Don't worry about it." You know, you know, do people stop you on the street and say, "I remember you from Star Trek"?
Yeah, it's amazing to me that Star Trek fans are just unbelievable. You know, I did a Star Trek convention last year, and I was sitting, it was a breakfast thing with some of the actors, you know, from Star Trek, and I only did one episode, so when I sat down, I said, you know, do any of you remember that episode? And they all laughed. And they said, "Are you kidding? You don't know who you're sitting with. We've all seen every episode about 20 times." So those, you know, Trekkies, they love that show, and they know all the episodes, all the actors, all the characters, their dialogue, everything. I mean, they're really into it. It's just really cute. And they're wonderful fans.
You acted with one of my favorite actors, Kevin McCarthy. What was it, The Key?
Yes.
Yeah. In
fact, if you go ahead.
That's a tough. Was that a tough one for you because you had to walk around, you know, and not open your mouth. You know, you had to pretend you were blind.
Right. That was based on a true story. In fact, if your listeners go to my website, BeverlyWashburn.com, and you click on to Rare TV Clips, there's a scene from that show. And it was based on a true story. I played the part of Laura Bridgman, and Laura Bridgman was later one of Helen Keller's teachers. So it was a difficult role because the producer had said to me that he said, you know, when you act, if you can't express yourself with your voice and your words, you express yourself with your eyes. But this one, he said, would be difficult because Laura Bridgman's eyes were burned out by a fever, so she wore, it looked like kind of a scarf around her eyes, like a blindfold kind of.
Right.
And it was tied in the back. And so he said, you're not going to be able to express yourself with your dialogue because, you know, I played a deaf mute. And he said, but you're also not going to be able to express yourself, you know, with your eyes. So you have to just do it another way. And so it was a difficult
Hello?
role.
Oh, okay.
And,
yeah.
Let
me ask you, Lon Chaney Jr. and Boris Karloff, I know they were huge back in the day. I mean, what was it like to meet them?
Boris Karloff? Well, I did an episode of Thriller, and of course I was a huge fan of Boris Karloff, but he wasn't actually in the episode, but he was the host of Thriller. And so on the set, I don't know if anybody of your listeners saw that episode, but it was called Parasite Mansion, and it was with Jeanette Nolan and Pippa Scott, and I play this the granddaughter who's locked up in an attic, and Jeanette Nolan is the grandmother, and she causes all these horrible things to happen to me. And anyway, so they had us on a set, and we lived in like an old kind of like a mansion, but it had cobwebs, and it was really a creepy old, broken down place. And so they had us all sitting around, there on the set, and then Boris Karloff introduced each one of us as the guest stars from the show as the camera would pan around individually. So I got to meet him. I didn't work with him because he wasn't in the episode, but he was on the set and introduced us in the beginning of the episode. So it was a thrill to get to meet him. He was very nice.
Yeah, everybody seemed, and I don't know how many people know this, but he was one of the actors that started the Screen Guild. He started that stuff way back with Lon Chaney, the senior, and all. But, he was a really nice guy, and he helped theaters and young actors. He was a very gracious man. Lon Chaney Jr., he's another one, oh my God, of Mice and Men. And when I think of some of the stuff he did, I think he's very underrated as an actor. What is your opinion?
He was wonderful. I did that movie Spider Baby, which is all over in fact, the Academy of Arts and Sciences just redid that movie. They refurbished it, and they're going to have a screening of it in Hollywood, California, the end of September, which I'm supposed to go to. And anyway, it's become like a cult classic, and I was so excited to get that role because I was a huge fan of Lon Chaney Jr., and it was just a very low-budget film. We shot it in 13 days, and so our salary was, very minimal, and it was just done so quickly. But now, all these years later, it's everywhere on the Internet. It's very popular. It has its own website, and there's Spider Baby T-shirts, and it's pretty fascinating. But he was just a darling man. He was as sweet as he could be. And for those people who have seen Spider Baby, there's a scene where Lon Chaney is talking to us, and he has to cry. And those were real tears. They didn't have to use the glycerin or the menthol in his eyes. He actually was there crying real tears. As you say, he was underrated because he was wonderful. And in Spider Baby, he actually sings the theme song.
Yeah. One of our favorite ones is the Monsters Holiday, and we love that. I think, when I think, they say Tom Cruise and this one and that one, there are so many actors and actresses that are really underrated for all their work. I mean, it's just incredible. And I think that I think really they should have in school, like in junior high or something like that, they should have where kids have to watch old black and white movies and things like that to see real acting, to see real stories. Because my granddaughter had a bunch of kids sleeping over this weekend at the camper, and they wanted to watch something, and so she picked the movie. And I was over the moon because she picked Bob Hope in Ghost Breakers. And she says, I love this movie. This is great. And two of the kids were looking at it like it was something in a foreign language. But the comedy in it, the delivery, and it didn't have to get dirty. And there was another movie she picked, Ghost Story with Fred Astaire. And I was so proud of her because to me, her eyes have been open to a whole world that most kids aren't seeing. Most kids aren't seeing.
Wonderful. Yeah. Because the movies are so different today, with all the animation and all the,
you don't have to think.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's wonderful that she's into that.
You don't have to think. You love animals, and one of your stories in here killed me because I remember being on my way out to Fort Ord during 1971, and back then there weren't pet-friendly motels and hotels, and so we had my dog and cat with us, and I said to them, I said, you got to be real quiet, and I shoved them in a pillowcase and snuck them into the hotel room, and they didn't make a sound. They didn't even move, Tell me about your book. A certain amount of the proceeds go towards animals, right?
Yes, absolutely. Whenever I do a convention or I sell my book or whatever, in fact, I just got through doing a little documentary that should be out the end of the year, and it's called Our Forever Friends, and it's a full-length feature documentary, and it's all about animals and rescuing them, and they have no voice, we're their voice, and so I've always loved animals from the time I was a child, and of course working on Old Yeller was a dream come true for me. And so right now, I hate to say it, I'm over my limit. You're only allowed to have 3 dogs, and I've got 4 dogs and 2 cats right now, but they're all rescues. And so, I just love them so much. And, they love you unconditionally. They don't care if you're rich or poor or tall or short or fat or thin or black or white, or they don't care. They just love you, and they love you unconditionally without judgment. And they rely on us. They depend on us, and so many people say, I can't take a bunch of animals, or I can't donate or whatever, and the small amount I could donate wouldn't make a difference. But that's not true, because if everybody, like you can't save the world, but if everybody could just do their part, and sometimes a donation, it doesn't matter if it's $5, if everybody did that. But people think, it's not enough, it won't make a difference, but it does make a difference. And so I always encourage people to do what they can, and not everybody can do a lot, but if everybody could just do a little something, it makes such a big difference. And they just give us so much love in return, and I would just be so lost without my animals. They're like my children, Well, they are my children.
Yeah.
And, in fact, right now I'm surrounded by them. I'm sitting on my sofa, and I've got one cat on my lap and another dog right next to me, and my other 2 dogs at my feet, and my other cat up on by my shoulder. And they just, they're just so...
Yeah, animals, and you say it in your book, but it's true. They love you more than you
love. They love
you.
Themselves.
Yeah.
They say that animals are the only being that loves you more than they love themselves.
Yeah, and I love the old story, bless the beast and children. In this world, they have no voice, they have no choice. It's true.
Yeah.
And I try to tell people, just buy a bag of food and drop it off at your local shelter.
Every Christmas. That's what I do at Christmas time.
It doesn't have to be a $40 bag of food. A $5 bag of food. They're animals that are struggling, and the shelters, they're struggling to keep it going. Oh, I'm sorry, the call-in number isn't working for some reason. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. Hang on, they're working on it, guys. So I really like that about you. So when you go to Amazon.com and you buy Real Tears, REELTEARS by Beverly Washburn, a portion of the money goes towards helping animals.
Yeah, it does. And you know, there are so many, you know, once you give to one, you know, it's hard not to give to everybody. So what I do is, every time I get a check, whether it's for the book or a convention or whatever I do, I alternate, because there's so many. My one little guy, Louie, I got him. It wasn't my plan to get him, but he just kept looking at me with these eyes, and so my plan was, I said, well, maybe I could foster him. And so I said, can I foster him? Well, that doesn't work. I had him for like 3 seconds, and I thought, I'm not going to foster him. I got to keep this guy, you know. Mm-hmm. He's so sweet. And anyway, he was from a little shelter.
Okay.
You are listening to GameCon Radio.
You've got questions.
Who are we? Where do we come from?
Are we alone in the universe?
Is there life after death?
Where can I take a class and really learn about demonology? Now, get the answers. For a decade, the American Institute of Metaphysics has offered the ultimate in courses designed to serve as the foundation in your search for life's questions. The courses cover a variety of subject areas and consist of wide-ranging alternative sciences, theories, and philosophies. Each course comes complete with textbooks, work materials, and instructions. The courses allow you the freedom to pursue your own areas of interest according to your schedule. Whether it's UFOs, life after death, demonology, cryptozoology, and more, you've got questions. We've got answers. Visit www.instituteofmetaphysics.com or call 877-623-3241 and start your search now.
Back to Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GameConRadio.com. We had a little bit of a glitch problem, and that's okay, live radio, that's what happens. We do have a caller, Lisa, and she wants to talk to Beverly. Lisa?
Hi, Mo. First, I want to tell you how much I'm enjoying your program.
It's
really got a beautiful, intimate, personal feel like girl talk, and I really do love it.
Thank you. I like to try to make it like we're sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea.
Well, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. And I would like to say also that you're so right about Beverly being beautiful. And she was such an adorable little girl, and sometimes it's hard to make that transition from adorable little girl to beautiful teenager, yes, which she did. So she kept her audience as a kid, and then she got the new audience by being such a pretty and talented teenage girl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. That's
you're welcome. Oh, Beverly, well, I'm calling for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm a super fan. And also, you and I share a very dear friend, Rick Sapphire, a tremendous celebrity manager. And Mo, Beverly was mentioning the show that she's going to do on October 28th, right here in New Jersey. I'm calling from New Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl, Mo.
Yeah, right. And we aren't like
God bless the Jersey girls.
And we aren't like Snooki.
Well,
Lisa, are you part of the DeMarco sisters?
Yes, my mom and my aunt are the five DeMarco, and I'm going to have the honor of working with you, Beverly, and getting to meet you in person. And your song says everybody loves Saturday night, but everybody's going to love Sunday afternoon on October 28th. I'll tell you that.
I'm a big fan of yours. I'm so looking forward to meeting you.
And I can't wait. It's going to be wonderful. You know, Rick's doing this Luncheon with the Stars, and I feel it's just going to be the first of many. He used to do it, and he's brilliant. He knows so many people, and he's bringing us together, and I love your work.
Thank you. And I love your
work. And I love your song.
Talented.
I know it by heart. Everybody loves Saturday night. It's very catchy.
Thank you. That's so cute of you to say that. Thank you. That is so.
And you're still so beautiful. Those blue eyes, just amazing. And Mo, my mom and my aunts were 5 sisters. Also, they all lived in New Jersey, the 5 DeMarco sisters. And Rick has put together a special tribute, of which I will be a big part of. And I am going to do a CD featuring some of my mom's songs and some of my songs. And maybe Beverly will do a little duet with me. Wouldn't that be a thrill for me?
Oh, that would be a thrill for me. That would be fun. Oh, my gosh.
Thank you.
Well, I saw a lot of your work. Rick showed me, and I was just blown away. You are so talented.
Oh,
so
thank
gifted.
you.
Yeah, really.
Thank you. You know, Beverly, my Uncle Murray, also a character actor, Murray Hamilton, did so many of the shows that you did. And it's just your roster. It's breathtaking. It really, really is. God bless you that you got all that work. And also, I'd like to say to you, Mo, I was also very sad about William Wyndham passing.
Yeah.
As a little girl, I loved that show. And his daughter, Lisa Gerritsen, went right to marry Tyler Moore from that show.
Yeah,
playing Bess.
He's another actor that I really feel people did not realize how good he was.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Well, he was like Beverly. He was in everything. And God bless him. What a beautiful career.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And they say he was such a nice guy. Another guy that, nobody says he was full of himself. Nobody ever says a bad thing. And that's so important because, you know, you hear such negative stuff now, and it's like, what is wrong with this picture? You're making your money by having fans, and then you treat your fans shabbily and your coworkers shabbily. And Beverly actually has a little snippet in there of a movie that was being made where the co-star actually flipped the bird at the other co-star because they were such a pain in the can. If you're going to
Well, Mo, I believe that William Wyndham, 2 words I'll describe what I thought he wanted in life, to be a working actor, and that's what he was. Celebrities today don't want to be a working actor. They just want to be in the limelight. Like I mentioned before, my Uncle Murray Hamilton, certainly is not a household name, but you would know. Beverly, I know you know. He was Mr. Robinson in The Graduate. He was the mayor in Jaws. He was in A Twilight Zone.
I know exactly who you're talking
about. You know exactly who he is. He worked all his life, Beverly and Mo, because all he wanted to do was be a working actor. And I must tell you a very funny story. He was in an elevator once in New York, and a couple got in, and they were staring at him, and the guy in the elevator said, "I know who you are. Don't tell me. I know your face. Don't tell me. And my Uncle Murray said, "I'm Murray Hamilton." And the guy said, "No, that's not it."
You're the mayor in Jaws. You're the one that Bryce Shouter almost punched in the mouth.
But they don't say that about Beverly. They know her face and her work, which is truly amazing. And I just wanted to call and say hi. And Mo, I love your show. I'm going to tune in from now on. And it's so great that you can have all this time with Beverly because people get to hear a lot of great stories and get to know her. And I've seen that website. I mean, Rick puts together websites unbelievable because he loves his clients so much. He gets everything in.
I know, and he adores you too, Lisa. He's so proud of
the greatest thing about Rick Sapphire is it's not for him. He wants his clients to shine, and that's very rare in that field. So I love him. Rick, if you're listening, I love you, and I know Beverly loves you. And Beverly, I love you. And October 28th, if I may plug, Mo, October 28th from 12 to 4, all of the particulars and details will be on Beverly's website, and we'll let you know, Mo. You give us another plug. And Beverly, I can't wait until that day so I can see those beautiful blue eyes in person.
Oh, bless your heart. You are so darling. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you. And Mo, thank you for taking my call. Beverly, I'll see you in October. Save the date. I can't wait.
God bless.
Maybe I'll come up and do that little skit with you. I would love to.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right, honey. Well,
thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you. That's wonderful. See, that's why I do this show, because I get annoyed when I see people like you and they give you a 5-minute thing. We have another caller. Caller? Okay. Caller?
Yeah, you know who this is.
Yes, I do. Terry Soto.
Hey, Terry.
Hi, cutie.
Hi there. How are you?
You're finally able to do this.
I know. I'm having a blast. It's so wonderful to talk to Mo. She has a great show, and it's so easy to talk to her. She's just darling. So thank you for introducing us.
Mo is very laid back, and I love her for that. And I also wanted to let you know that I'll be there at Edison, New Jersey, on the 28th.
Okay.
And
we're gonna
nothing short of a flat tire will keep me from seeing you there.
Okay, thank you.
And I wanted to ask you a question. You've worked with so many. You know, I've had you here 3 years, and I never got around to asking you. Out of all the celebrities you've worked with through the years, which one stands out in your mind?
Oh, that's a tough question. It really is, because I've been so fortunate to work with so many wonderful ones. And I guess if I were to narrow it down, I guess the top two, although it's hard to say because there's so many, but I guess I'd have to say Jack Benny and Loretta Young stand out the most, because they were not only instrumental in my career but in my life, and I was fortunate to stay in touch with both of them throughout, you know, until they both passed away, you know. So I was an adult, and I had worked with both of them as a child. And in fact, at our new symposium, Rick was able to come across a radio show that I did with Jack Benny that I thought was somewhere out in cyberspace. I didn't have a copy of it. I haven't heard it myself. I think I was about 8 or something when I did it. And it's this obscure radio show with Jack Benny. And Rick was able to find it. And so we'll be doing that at the symposium in October. And that's a radio show that probably very few people have heard, because it was, you know, it was back in the 50s. But
wow.
Yeah, so that we've got a lot of fun things planned. So
tell me, how far back do you remember things?
Well, yesterday. No, just just like red. No, my dog's barking. I'm sorry. I remember a lot. I mean, I think I remember more things as a child than as an adult. I don't know.
Are as sharp as a whip. I mean,
no,
I've had people at my show younger than you that wouldn't know half the things that you remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Well, there are a few shows that are kind of a blur because, you know, I was so young. There was another one that Rick just found, and I watched it, and I thought, wow, I don't really remember doing that show, but but the really significant ones, you know, with Jack Benny and Kirk Douglas and Bing Crosby and Loretta Young and Danny Kaye and Jimmy Stewart and all that, all those are embedded in my memory and in my heart. You know, it's as we get older, the one thing that we have is our memory. You know, and
yeah, you know, that's what I tell people. My memories keep me going.
Yeah,
that's what keeps me going, and every day I hear someone passing away that was part of my. It hurts.
Yeah, but you know what? Their work is there for us to enjoy. The Neverbug and I, what we've been doing this summer is I've introduced her to Cary Grant, all the movies. And so, you know, he's never really gone now because of the body of work that he's done, you know.
Right.
So that's the good news. Terry, I think we have somebody else trying to call in.
Oh, you go for it.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure speaking to my girl.
Thank you for calling in, Terry. Take care. Stay well. Okay, thanks for the call.
Yeah, it's the book, and while we're waiting for the other caller to call in. It's a very candid picture. Oh, we got another caller. Okay. Stand by. Caller?
Hello?
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 Hello, hello?
Hello?
Who is this? Is it Rick? Nope, we lost him. I can't hear him.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, okay, we got you. Hi, this is Rick Sapphire. I would like to
am I
Beverly Washburn.
Hi, Rick.
Cool. Hi, Beverly.
Wow, thanks
are we on the radio?
Yes, we're on the radio. If you've got a radio going and you're listening in the background, you have to kill the sound so we don't have.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it off completely because I'm tired of listening to it already. Hold on a second.
Yeah, okay. We get a feedback. We keep getting.
Yeah, I'm gonna press the right button. Good. I listen. Hi, Mo, and hi, Bev. I needed to call in to set the record straight because I've known Beverly for a long, long time, and so many beautiful, sweet, syrupy, wonderful things have been said about her. Beverly is one of the most annoying people I know.
Go for it, Rick.
Mo, you had mentioned earlier how a lot of the child actors have such great success, and then they lose the success and they lose the fame and they go to drinking and drugs. Mm-hmm. Beverly did it the opposite way. When she was 5 years old, she was a drunk, and all of the reason why she cried in all the movies, and this is I'm her manager, so you can believe this. The reason why she cried is because they wouldn't give her any booze. Loretta Young hid all the bottles, and when Beverly was 7 years old, she married Mickey Rooney. A lot of people don't know this, and they had a son who was Billy Barty, who you remember. So
yes.
So these are the truthful things that you will learn at Beverly's symposium that's coming up in October, and of course I'm teasing Beverly a little bit because I tell Beverly
stand up too.
I tell Beverly that she has terminal humility,
yes,
and because she is such a humble person, and it's very difficult. You're doing a good job, Mo, getting Beverly to kind of come and talk about herself a little bit because she has as Lisa DeMarco Brandy, who is the daughter of Ann DeMarco, one of the 5 DeMarco sisters. And Google the DeMarco sisters, people, when you're, or go to thedemarcosisters.com, and you'll see the greatest girl harmony group of the 20th century. But Lisa's right. Beverly has such an incredible body of work. There is nobody that can touch her. And the people that she worked with and the scenes that she played. Some of the movies that Bev was in, like The Juggler with Kirk Douglas, which was the first movie filmed in the new state of Israel, and it was the very first motion picture to look at the plight of Holocaust survivors coming out of the death camps and being saved and brought to Israel. And Beverly, although her role in that movie wasn't a long role, I mean, she was in for the first 10 minutes, but it was the crucial role in that film because in the end, I won't give away the story in case somebody wants to see it, she helped to save Kirk Douglas from himself. And a very important, touching movie. Jack Benny, we don't realize it. Beverly played comedy with Jack Benny on his radio show, on his television show, and she toured the theater. She worked Las Vegas with Jack Benny as one of his comedy foils. I mean, she has done incredible things, and these are the things that you learn about it. It wasn't just the movies where she cried, because she did a lot of those, and of course I told you why, because she was drunk. But anything but that. Beverly didn't do those kinds of things. But the important things that Beverly did, I mean, she goes back to radio. I do have a question for you, Beverly, if you don't mind. And this is a question. I've known you more than 20 years, and I've never asked you this. Was it a difficult transition going from silent movies into talkies?
Do you want to slap them now?
she's gonna kill me.
You know that Rick does stand up too, yes. Okay, Mo, and he's on a roll now with me.
You can't take me too seriously. But some very funny things have happened. Beverly mentioned Tommy Kirk being at her house, which is amazing. I mean, here as kids, Tommy Kirk and Beverly appeared in one of the most memorable Disney classics. And you wonder, well, do you ever talk to the people you worked with in a movie? Tommy comes over to Beverly's house. He stays over sometimes. They go out to dinner. They're the best of friends, and it's wonderful and heartwarming. What you don't know about the movie Old Yeller is in the scene when Tommy has to shoot Old Yeller, they had to recut the scene because he actually was trying to shoot Beverly because she was annoying, and he missed Beverly and shot the dog. So Disney had to come out and rewrite the whole movie, because it cost too much to reshoot it. So you learn these fascinating facts.
Yes, thank you for clearing up that whole
Isn't he bad? If I didn't know him for so long, I'd be taking him seriously. I'd be crying right now.
Yeah.
Well, Beverly's fans know the truth, and the thing is, a lot of people don't know that they're Beverly Washburn fans. Because when you say, well, Beverly Washburn is going to be appearing at a seminar or at an autograph show, they say, well, I don't know the name. Right. And as soon as they see her picture in any of the scenes of the hundreds of TV shows and movies she did, everybody has a recollection of Beverly. Everybody knows who she is. And so it's quite incredible. And it's amazing that she has remained so humble through these years, but she has, and she's a great person, and she has a wonderful sense of humor. We have spent many hours laughing about things that we can't even tell you about. Yes. But she. But one funny incident was when, and I was there. Tommy Kirk and Beverly were at a celebrity autograph show, and a fan comes up and looks at the picture of Old Yeller with Bev and Tommy Kirk in that sensational movie. And she looked up at Beverly and Tommy, and she said, I didn't know you two were still alive.
Oh, my God. I read that in a book, and I was like, oh, my God.
Well, and it's true. And the thing is with Bev, she started at a very, very early age, and people that might have been in their 20s or even 30s when they saw Beverly in Here Comes the Groom with Bing Crosby and The Greatest Show on Earth, where she did a very touching scene with Jimmy Stewart. They're in their 30s. Well, now they may be well in their 80s or older, and they don't realize, of course, that Beverly was that much younger, and she's still around and still working, which is a wonderful thing.
Let me just because we've got like 8 minutes left to the show, and see, Beverly,
I told you.
Yeah, I know. I told you, Beverly, it really moves fast. The thing that struck me about the book is the pictures where other stars, Bing Crosby, Lou Costello, Kirk Douglas, they write to a terrific actress. You were just a child, but they treated you as an equal, and they were so kind, and they respected
wonderful.
Your work. And that's the thing that really struck me with the book. And it struck me when we were at that little get-together that you guys had with the pictures, that Lou Costello, to a fine little actress, He wasn't treating you as a child. He was really respected your work, and I think that means everything.
Well, I'm going to answer for Beverly because I know she's going to be humble and she won't say what needs to be said.
But we know you're not like that at all.
Well, I'm not. I'm conceited for the people that I love and represent. Because you have to be. If you're a good manager, you can't just manage anybody. You have to really care about the people who you represent, and I care so much about Beverly. When she did the Jack Benny program, if you go to BeverlyWashburn.com, we have a page on there that has a whole slew of her television clips, and you'll see the episode on the Jack Benny TV program. where she came out and did a back and forth with him, which ran for about 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And the show was done live, and probably it was seen live on the East Coast and then on film on the West Coast, because that's how it had to work in those days. But Jack Benny put his career in Beverly's hands because it was live television, mm-hmm. and it was just him and Beverly on the set when he was talking to her. I won't give away the joke and the punchline, but go look at it. Really funny. It's a very funny scenario. And she not only did she remember every line, but if you watch it carefully, she actually corrected Jack Benny when he went astray a little bit, and she kept him right on the mark. Mm-hmm. And then what you won't see in that clip is when Jack Benny leaves, he leaves Beverly with Bob Crosby, Bing Crosby's brother. Bob Crosby was the orchestra leader on the show. And they do another 6 minutes where Bob Crosby sings a medley of songs from Peter Pan, which was on Broadway at the time. And Beverly interacted with him and came with her lines absolutely right on cue. Jack Benny had enough respect for Beverly when she was very, very young to hand over his career to her, because if she would have bombed, if she would have forgotten her lines or gotten nervous, that show was live. Right. And Jack Benny would have probably started playing the violin and lost the whole audience. Yeah. But it is a testament to the fact that she was a very highly respected actress. They call them everybody's an actor now, but she was an actress, and that's how people talked about her and treated her, not as a child. And Beverly, one last thing, and then I'll take a breath because I'm doing this all in one breath. Beverly, Tony Dow told me once on an interview that I did for a radio show that I was doing. Tony said that Beverly, among the child actors, and there were lots of them in those days, Beverly was the most respected of all of the child actors, because she was a serious actress, even though she played some very funny comedic roles. But they respected her, and I think many of them learned from her.
Yes. Yeah, and I wish to God, young people that are in the business now would check out Beverly's book and maybe try to meet her so they could learn how to deal with the whole thing, how to deal, because I don't think a lot of the young people now are being mentored the right way, and they don't have people helping them over these hurdles.
I would love to meet them.
Yeah, that would be a great thing. We're going to have to close this out, guys. Again, hang on, I'm being handed a note. Okay, that was Rick Sapphire. He hung up. Thank you, Rick, for calling in. And Rick Sapphire is Beverly's manager. He's a wonderful guy. Beverly's site is Beverly Washburn. And it's like it sounds, Washburn, BURN, .com. Her book is Real Tears, and you can get it on Amazon. .com, and the real is REEL. It's very candid. Now, we didn't talk a lot about the personal struggles that she had, and she wasn't a drunk, she wasn't a drug user or anything, but there were some low times and stuff. So it's a very candid, open look at how she has dealt with real life, which an actress, their life isn't a movie, it's real. And they lose people, and bad things happen to them, and they have to still get up and do a performance. They still have to entertain us, so it kind of sucks. And we ran out of time, and thank you to the people that called in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for coming on, and believe me, if you ever want to come back on again, all you have to do is let me know, and I will be more than happy. You're going to bring another book out. That should be out when?
In October, and it's called Real Tears Take Two, and it'll be on Amazon and also Barnes & Noble.
And October 28th, you're going to be in New Jersey, right?
Yes, and I hope you'll be there, and I hope some of your listeners will be there. We'll have a great time. And Mo, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm truly honored and grateful to you, and I'm so grateful to Lisa and Terry and Rick for calling in, and for the listeners, and it's just been fun to share some memories with you, and I thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you. Next week, we're going on vacation, people. As I said, Labor Day's coming. Please don't drink and drive. Give the keys to somebody else. Remember, your animals aren't out there partying with you. You got to be responsible. Even if you're having a party, you got to be responsible pet owners. I want to thank everybody for listening. God bless you all. I love you all, and take care out there. It's a scary world out there. Good night.
Somewhere over the rainbow, birds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow, while can
Thank you for visiting me at my lair. Mo Banshee's Lair is broadcast live on Tuesday evenings at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Pacific, and in the UK, 3 a.m. Wednesday mornings on www.gameconradio.com. You can listen to our recent recordings on Podomatic/Mo Banshee. You can contact me at www.asylumsgate.com. Again, thank you for listening. God bless you and yours, and have a very cool day.
Person. She had a lot of friends in the industries, and when Bob Hope said, how about coming and entertaining troops in Vietnam, she did not blink an eye. She was there. The only thing she did say was, while she was there, he took her into one of the hospitals, and she started crying when she saw the kids all beat up and hurt. And Bob Hope took her outside and said, those kids don't want to see tears. They want to laugh. They want to get a bit of home. He says, if you're going to do that, get on the plane and go home. And after that, she straightened up, and she was all laughing and flirting, and she was Phyllis Diller. So God bless her for a wonderful life and for many laughs that she gave people. Another, he's one of my favorite actors, a character actor, was William Wyndham. And most people will remember him from Murder, She Wrote. He played the doctor who was Angela Lansbury's kind of a little bit romantic interest, but also the town doctor that was always getting into trouble with Angela Lansbury. But I remember him from a TV series called My World and Welcome to It, where he was a cartoonist who kind of escaped the middle-class life through his cartoons and through his imagination. And it was wonderful. He won an Emmy for that show. Anything he was in, he was good. God bless him. He passed away the other day, and you know, he was a great guy. So God bless his family and comfort them as well. 35 years. It's been 35 years since Elvis Presley passed away. And it was very nice to see this year that both Priscilla and the daughter there ended up going and meeting all the fans that went to Graceland to remember him on the 35th anniversary. They spoke to everybody. They were very, very nice, and they appreciated everybody's interest. I mean, 35 years later, and still Memphis traffic was stopped dead because of the king of rock and roll. So God bless his memory, and it's nice to see that the fans are still there for him. Now we get into some of the crazy but new stuff. China is coming up with a new kind of style. It's called the face kini. Evidently, the women in China are worried about insects being too tan, and jellyfish. I guess jellyfish are a big problem over there. So they wear something that looks like you would use it for bondage on their face. It's a mask. And, you know, they're saying that you can get it to match, you know, different swimwear and stuff, but they all look like axe murderers from the pictures. So the new thing is a face kini, and it's a mask that kind of looks like something your local axe murderer might wear, but it's the new thing in China, and I hope they don't bring it here, because then you really won't know who to be afraid of anymore. I like President Obama.
The opinions and views expressed in the following presentation do not necessarily reflect those of GameCon Radio or its affiliates.
Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GameConRadio.com. We rock your world.
Welcome to Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GameConRadio.com. We rock your game. We also rock your world every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. We start with DJ Smoochie, who has homeroom. She always plays great music. I love to chill out before my show. And then at 10 o'clock, Mo Banshee's Lair. You know, it's a big cave and a few throw pillows. I try to make it homey, and everybody seems to like us on Tuesday nights, so why change it, right? I want to draw your attention to GameCon Radio has a lot of different DJs, a lot of different shows. It plays music all day, all night, and then we have shows too, and one of my favorite is Dr. William Lester. On Saturday night, he does Shadow Land, and it's vintage radio, and it's all the greats like Vincent Price and the Shadow Knows, and all those great radio shows. And, you know, the dark stories that we used to scare the pants off us when we were little. Jurassic Park with Doc Stan. There's so many shows. DJ Barefoot plays music. DJ Deadeye, he also has a great show. So check out the schedule page on GameCon Radio, because I'm telling you, it's one of the best stations there is out there. And, as you're getting your, you know, your soda and getting everything else, you all guys all know how it works with us. I do my crazy butt news, and I want to welcome everybody that's in the chat room, and I also want to welcome everybody on different players, and however you're listening to us, thank you for listening to us, and send our links around. That's how we get bigger, and more people get to listen, and the family gets bigger. I like big families. Labor Day is coming, and I want to ask everybody to please drink responsibly. So what does that mean? If you're going to drink, don't drive. You shouldn't be driving a car if you're drinking. And if you're the kind of person that becomes a total jerkoid when you drink, he got in office at the worst possible time. I don't care if Jesus Christ had been elected president 4 years ago, he would have been in the same problem that, well, maybe not, because he could make, you know, gold out of water. So maybe he would have been better off, but nobody was going to do anything to make this economy turn around. We were already on a 40, 50-year slide down with the economy. But this new thing that the president's got going has got me a little shook up. Undocumented immigrants will be granted driver licenses. Now, normally I wouldn't care about this stuff, except when I go to renew my license, I got to bring my first born. I almost had to go dig my mother's remains up to show that, yep, I'm here. This is me. This is my mother. I had to have 6 points of ID. I had to have ID with a picture on it. I had to go out and get a passport so I could get a license renewed. And now they're just going to say to undocumented immigrants, okay, you can have a driver's license. Now, this is coming after Lakewood, New Jersey started giving illegal immigrants IDs so they could use the libraries and cash their checks in the post office. Now, the problem I have with all this is your driver's license is not something that you deserve. It's a privilege, and roads are paid for by taxes. My libraries are paid for by taxes. Everything is paid for by my taxes, and illegal immigrants aren't paying taxes. So I'm a little disgusted with this whole give an illegal immigrant a driver's license, especially when I'm there and I'm having to prove who I am, that I'm here in the United States legally. I'm showing all these papers. I'm really annoyed. I think I know what the game is. I think they figure once they get some kind of documentation on them, they could start forcing them to, pay taxes or something. But that ain't going to work. So I'm really annoyed with that whole thing. I think it's crazy, and I think it's a waste of, time and everything else. I do have one more crazy but news. A lab tech at Georgia Health Services University may have engaged in too much monkey business. Officials jailed Coley Mitchell. He's 32 years old on August 13 after he was discovered intoxicated with his pants down in a campus locker with 2 lab monkeys that he had let out of their cages. He smelled of alcohol, and he became belligerent when the police tried to remove him from the room. And they made sure that the university, it's a research university, made sure they had veterinarians come and check the monkeys, and they said they seemed to be unharmed. I guess they have a problem with him having some kind of relationship with the monkeys that they're going to poison, test things on. They're going to drink it all. Don't ruin everybody else's Labor Day because you're a moron. The roads are going to be really full with a lot of people who are going to try to take that last bit of summer and the picnics and getting away. So give yourself lots of time to travel. Be patient. If you need to chew bubble gum, that's cool too. Put on your favorite music in the car and chill out, because it's not going to help having people get nasty and flipping the bird and cursing at each other. So everybody, I want you to have a wonderful Labor Day, because next week I'm going to be on vacation. My prayer is everybody is safe. I want you all safe. I don't want anybody hurt. And you all know me by now. We are still in the throes of summer, September and October. It does get hot. Animals do not belong in cars when you are not in the car. If you're going to a picnic, if you're going to the county fair, if you're going to the grocery store, if you're going into 7-Eleven or someplace to buy coffee, do not leave your animals, children, or elderly in the car. In 15 minutes, a vehicle can turn into an oven and cause permanent brain damage to anything living in there. Your pets, your children, your elderly deserve so much better from you. And I am so disheartened, because the more I scream about it, the more I seem to hear about it. If you see an animal in a car that's locked up, get a hold of the police, tell them to come and do something about it. Crazy good news. We've got some sad news. In the entertainment world, Phyllis Diller passed away at age 95. Phyllis Diller opened the door for stand-up women comedians. There was never anybody like Phyllis Diller before her. And she ended up getting a couple of gigs. One was with Groucho Marx, and he looked at her and says, "You know what? You're funny." And she had this laugh, this ha ha ha, but it was her laugh. That's really how she laughed. One of her biggest admirers was Bob Hope, and he would take her on the tours, the Christmas tours for the guys overseas during Vietnam. And one of the shticks she would do is go out and look at all the Vietnam guys and say, "Oh my God, look at all these guys cheering." And Bob Hope would say, "Yeah, they haven't been home in a long time." And she'd laugh, and go, ha, 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 because she always played herself down as a real dog. But she was funny, and she was a wonderful person, and she was she got into the industry towing 5 children behind her. So God bless her. She was a wonderful comedian, and I never saw her in person, so I don't know if she got too dirty. I don't particularly care for dirty, really, really dirty stuff. When some comedians get on the stage, they get really, rank, and I don't care for that. I think there are ways to tell jokes that are funny without, making yourself look like a gutter snipe. But she was a wonderful radiate. They're going to put glass in their brains so they can see how they work. But he didn't hurt them, so it's okay what they do. But anyway, this guy is in big trouble, and he's being, held for observation because, let's face it, he probably shocked the daylights out of these poor monkeys. But that's the crazy but news, and I say this every week just when I think I'm not going to be able to pull up any crazy but news. There is a bumper crop of it. I'll tell you, it never ceases to amaze me what people do. Real Tears, the Beverly Washburn story. I read this book. Our guest is Beverly Washburn, and I have to tell you, this is an eye-opener. And Beverly, welcome to the lair. Beverly?
Hello?
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 Can you hear me?
I can, yeah. I don't know. It's my phone.
Okay. Well, welcome to the lair, Beverly.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. I've been sitting here listening to what you've had to say, and it's wonderful so far.
Yeah, it's the thing with the monkey that got me. Bringing veterinarians to make sure he didn't hurt the monkeys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The dye that you're using, testing on them, all that garbage that you guys are doing over there, that's not hurting them, right? Your book. I read your book, and it's quite an eye-opener to what I would say is the real Hollywood through a lifetime experience. You have literally a lifetime of experience with the entertainment industry.
Thank you. Well, I started quite young. I was 3 when I started modeling children's clothes, and so it's been a long career, and I feel very fortunate that I've been able to work with some of the really wonderful people in the industry.
How did you get into the industry?
Well, I started modeling children's clothes, and I was kind of following in my sister's footsteps. She used to go around. She was an acrobat, and she would do little benefit shows at various hospitals, mainly for the veterans, and I would kind of follow and, get up and sing when I was like 5 years old. And so I happened to meet Jock Mahoney. He was at one of these shows, and people will remember him. And he was the range rider and Yancey Derringer. And so we met, and of course I had an agent, and I would go on auditions, but I never got, any parts because I didn't have any, any credits behind me. And so they never would give me that opportunity. Well, anyway, I met Jock Mahoney, and a couple months later, I was on an audition at Columbia, and he happened to be walking through the lobby, and he remembered me because we had met at this benefit show for the veterans in Long Beach, California. And he asked my mother what I was doing there, and she said that I was auditioning for this movie called The Killer That Stalked New York with Evelyn Keyes. So so he said, well, wait a minute, and he went in and he said, oh, this kid's done this, and